Hi, I'm Jim Gary, and welcome to Batilipi's Workshop. I've been working on the brake system of my year 2000 Workhorse-based motorhome as part of its restoration. And I've replaced the rear drums, the shoes and the cylinders, all the flexible hoses, and the front calipers. In a previous video, I assembled a new Hydroboost and Master Cylinder to the original brake pedal linkage, and now I'm showing you how I reinstalled that assembly back into the motorhome. All that's left to do next is to fill the brake system with brake fluid and bleed the brakes, including the ABS module, and then finally adjust the rear drum brakes and parking brake. And that'll be in an upcoming video. As always, I welcome any comments or suggestions you may have. Just as a reminder, I'm a biologist, not a mechanic, and I'm showing you what I did, not what you should do. So please consult with a professional mechanic prior to doing something like this. If you're interested, there are links to my other videos in the description below. So please like and subscribe. Now let's get on with the video. This is the Hydroboost here and the Master Cylinder here. They're both new, and I assembled these in a previous video, and I also removed the original ones out in a previous video. So the only thing that's original is this assembly here. That's the linkage to the brake pedal. That is original. This is the Hydroboost, and this is the Master Cylinder here. And I've got the 4 bolts. They're all 3/8" bolts with 9/16 wrenches, and there's a small bolt here that just holds on a clamp, a clip that holds a hydraulic pipe. So I'm going to put it in 2 stages. So I've got to now take the Master Cylinder off and set that aside, and I'm just going to install this. And it's that complicated because there's this bracket that goes on here, and I think it'd just be hard to install this bracket and all these bolts at the same time. Look at it upside down. There's a washer on the inside that comes through, and then the nut is on this side. So there's a washer on the side where the head of the bolt is, and this lock nut on this side. So I got 2 of those. And then there's also a bolt that attaches here, same kind, and over here. So that's this hole and this hole. And then this little hole here is just where that hose bracket connects. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart. I'll do it off camera. There's nothing big deal. I just have to undo these 2 bolts. So here it is ready to put on. This is where the Master Cylinder is going to go back on. It looks like they put some kind of thread lock on there, but I'm going to put some fresh thread lock. Plus I've added a lock washer. Just seems like a good idea for then. But for now, I'm just going to get this piece in. So we'll go out under the car, under the RV, and see what happens. So the first thing I'm going to do is bolt these 2 first bolts in. So I'm going to put the 2 bolts here and this side bolt, at least set them in loosely for now. See how that fits. So I've got that 1 bolt in loosely just to hold it there while I fiddle with the rest. There's that one. There's that one. So again, these were just bolts. They're lock nuts. There's a washer on the head side of the bolt and no washers on the lock side of the bolt. Yeah. I'm not going to tighten anything until I get all the bolts in. So reviewing the footage when I took this apart, this bolt was actually had the head inside, so I'm going to go put the head inside. It's just loose in there. There's no nut on it yet. There it goes. Just couldn't see it well enough to do it. So I'm just going to put a nut on it loosely and then delve underneath and do the other parts. There we go. So we're looking up at the linkage end of this, and there's a bolt that goes in here. There it goes. So I've got the nut of the washer, the bolt head and the washer on one side, inside, and I'm putting the nut on the outside. There it goes. Sorry, my hand's in the way, but there's no helping that. And then the final structural one is right here. And this is where the linkage arm that comes out of the Hydroboost connects onto the pedal rod, and that's this. So this is the pedal rod, and this is the one I want to get on, not real tight, but it does have to have a cotter pin on it. There it comes. And on this, the washer isn't big enough to fit around the whole thing. So this wider part goes into the hole on the brake linkage. So I've just got to jiggle this to get that fit on there. It's just so hard to get my hand up in there. There it goes. So that's on. Now it looks like there's supposed to be a washer big enough to fit over that shoulder. So I'm going to go take a look. So here's the brake pedal arm that comes down, and it's on the shoulder of the bolt that connects it into the Hydroboost. And I looked back into my records and I found that there was a plastic washer, which I found, that goes on the shoulder of the bolt, and then the nut goes over that. And I have to go get a cotter pin. I decided to take this apart and put a little grease on the shoulder in there. It's not a big deal, but I have had trouble with my brake pedal not coming all the way up, so I just thought I'd put on just a little bit, not a lot, not on the threaded part, just on the shoulder. There it goes. Now I just have to put on that rubber or plastic washer. And I really don't see how that bolt got so tight that it had to be loosened. I actually think what happened, because as you can see, there's no way the nut can go past that shoulder, so that purposely leaves it a little bit loose. So I think what actually happened is it sat so long it got rusty in there. Now I couldn't find anything about how tight to make this particular thing. All the other bolts that hold the Hydroboost on are supposed to be 27 foot-pounds. And that's pretty snug. That's probably about what I'll do. I just want to make sure the pedal still goes up and down. The problem is it's a lock nut, so I can't just thread it on by hand. Okay, I think that's tight enough. So I'm just putting in the shorter cotter pin. Okay, so I'm going to try to put it in from this side so I have better access. There it is. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is just put this bolt in that just holds a pipeline connector, a tab, and I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but you can see where my fingers are, and that's where I'm working. It's a little bolt with a 1/2 inch head. That's good. That took some doing. This bolt has to be snugged down, and then there's 3 more that have to be snugged down. And I'm going to do that now, and then after I snug them down, then I'll go back and torque them all to 27 foot-pounds. And these are all 19/16 bolts. Got that hanging on there, and need another 9/16. Just hold it, and it's going to take a little bit of doing. Okay, I can still wiggle it a little bit, but it's in there. So now I'll move to the other ones. So these are the 3 bolts I have left to snug down. And it said in the manual it's really important to have these bolts with the heads inside and the nuts facing out like I have them. And that's the way they were. Remember, these are those lock nuts, so they're not easy to get turned. Okay, that's pretty good. bit easier here for me. This is the last one here. And I'm sure that'll make it the hardest. Okay, that's snug. That's snug. Again, this one in the back, you can't really see it. That one's snugged up now that the others are snugged down. And this one, I don't think I'm going to be able to get a torque wrench on. I don't see how. So this is my electronic one, and it's set to 27 foot-pounds. And it lights up and makes noises and all kinds of stuff once you get it on. It's just not wanting to stay on there very well. I just don't have a straight shot at the nut. That means it's almost there. That beeping sound. Okay, that one's on there. Yeah, I found a wrench up in the motor here, and somebody must have lost it a long time ago, and I can't get it out. I tried everything. It's still up there. Okay, that's 27 foot-pounds. Okay, that one's good. That's good. Okay. We're in. Everything looks fine. That's all 4 bolts tightened and torqued. So it's time to install the master cylinder. I've still got a few loose ends I've got to do with moving of some of these tubes around and stuff. But we're pretty close. Gotta cut this tie wrap here, just holding that out of the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect the hoses to the Hydroboost, and this is the return hose, and that just goes on here. And I've got to go get the driver for that. So it's time to put the master cylinder in. This is a very exciting time. So first thing I got to do is take off the bolts. These are M10 by 1.5 thread bolts, and I was going to put lock washers on, but they weren't called for in there, so I'm not going to do it. This is a spacer I made to get the proper set, and then here's the spacer I made just so that the end of the master cylinder isn't just floating around in there. It's a loose fit, but nonetheless a fit. So put this back, and I'm going to put some thread locker on there. I'm using the red high strength stuff. There's some green stuff on there, but I don't notice that it did anything, so I just put this on there. So there's 2 connections I'm going to have to make. So I've got holes for each of them. That's this pipe here and this pipe here. So let's go ahead and set this on. There it goes. Here's the back nut. And I looked it up, but the manual says it's supposed to be 21 foot-pounds. And I've got my torque wrench here. I'm going to set it for 21. It's set at 27 right now. There's 21. And it's a 15 millimeter socket, so there we go. I'm going to go back and forth. First bolt I've had that was easy to reach. That's almost done. That's 21. That's 21. Easy. So I'm going to fool around and get these in place and started, and then I'll come back. So I'm back and trying to screw these in. Of course, you got to be really careful not to cross thread them or anything, and you can't really see. It feels like it's turning, but I don't think it is. Nope. So I'm going to fool around some more, come back. I can see the angle I need to get this pipe in that I just couldn't see before. There, got it. So I just have to tighten them up. It's 9/16, so I'm good. And I don't really tighten these a whole lot, just snug. I can always tighten them more later if they leak when I'm bleeding them. So this other one is probably 1/2 inch. Okay, so I think that's about right. A funny thing just occurred to me. I realized that I forgot to put this bracket on. And that bracket's really important because this thing needs to be secured. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off. I'm going to try leaving the hydraulic tubes in, and just because I don't really have to move it much. But we'll see. Luckily my torque wrench I happen to have with me is a ratchet, so that'll help. This just cracks me up. I was so excited about being done. There it comes. And I put Loctite on. I guess it just takes a while for the Loctite to lock in. Okay, let's see if I can just get lucky and just slide this thing in. Oh yeah, no problem. Problem at all. I just realized I jumped the gun. I was so excited about putting the master cylinder in, I forgot to finish these hoses here. Well, I'm not going to be able to show you while I'm doing it, but I'll just show you. Get the line up here. So what I've got to get is I've got to get this hose screwed in back here, which I'll do, and then this hose here gets screwed into here. Make sure it's tidy. Now it'll have to get screwed into there. Anyway, I'll get both of these done and I'll tighten up this hose clamp off camera. So I've got everything put in and all the hoses run properly and tightened. So we're good to go there. So we're done. I just have some cleaning up to do. I've got a lot of other hoses I had to move out of the way. I've got to put them all back. This, all kinds of little things. Check the chafing back on the pipes that are running to the master cylinder, all those hydraulic pipes, make sure they're not going to rub against anything. But the main job is finally finished. Hurrah! Well, I'm very satisfied with the progress made in this video. If you liked it and are interested in similar videos, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.